What's up, Arrow fans? This is Mel again, and I'm here to recap Season 3, Episode 20, The Fallen of Arrow, which aired April 22nd, 2015. Before we get started, here is the release synopsis of this episode. Ra's al Ghul finally makes Oliver an offer he can't refuse. The team joins Oliver on his journey to Nanda Parbat, where heartbroken Felicity decides to take matters into her own hands. And I gotta say, even without that synopsis, the promo itself is very telling of what we are to expect. With the ending of last week's episode, we got Ra's al Ghul killing Thea, or basically giving her the wound that Oliver got during their mountaintop fight back in 309. So Thea's in critical condition in the hospital, and Malcolm tells Oliver about the waters and Nanda Parbat that have healing properties. And we've seen it before when Ra's dipped his hand in the water only to have the cut he had there gone. Also, based on what I hear about the comics, there's this thing called the Lazarus Pit. So that's probably where Oliver is going to be taking Thea next. And Felicity being heartbroken, I believe that it is possible that Ray broke up with her, because maybe he finally realized that Felicity loves Oliver. And then either way, Felicity fans, this is the episode we finally have been waiting for. They finally have a heart-to-heart moment that leads to a whole hell of a lot more. And I just hope that whatever the promos had teased us about this moment, the actual scene itself does what us Felicity fans want, justice. So I'm very excited to see that happen. And while it's going to be a mystery whether or not how Thea takes to the waters of Nanda Parbat, but I think that predictions before going to the episode right now is that Thea will get healed by the waters, but as Malcolm warned, people that go in the water don't necessarily come back out properly. So there's something to be very wrong with Thea, maybe not outrightly visible, but definitely something wrong. And it has me thinking of what happened to Sam Winchester on Supernatural when he was soulless. After he'd been ripped out of hell, he essentially his soul didn't get ripped out with him. So for quite some time, he had to live without his soul, and he became this emotionless, ruthless, truly became a guy you did not want to tangle with, you did not want to stand in his way. So I think that the Lazarus Pit, if that is what these magical waters is possibly going to give Thea that aspect. So I'll have to wait and see. But hopefully by the end of this recap, we'll just see if my predictions were correct or not. So let's begin, shall we? Before I get into the recap for tonight, I just want to make clear that the pre-episode predictions I make, I usually make them the day before the actual episode airs. So whatever you hear after this comment is made after the episode is aired, and everything you heard before was recorded yesterday. So with that being said, let's get started on a recap, shall we? And based on this episode of Arrow, there is basically two specific storylines. There is the flashback storyline that happens in Hong Kong, and then there's the storyline revolving the aftermath of Thea's encounter with Ra's al Ghul. So very quickly, I'll just deal with the flashbacks because it's very quick, easily summarize it as Oliver, Miseo, and Tatsu trying to track down the Alpha and Omega components to the bioweapon, but they've come to realize that not only is it combined, they now have to try to track it down and take it back before it's released in the city. But during their attempts to get it back, shots are fired, fights occur, but bottom line is the vial breaks in a Chinatown food court a few feet away from Oliver. So at this case, while we know that Oliver, Miseo, and Tatsu live to see another day, we don't exactly know how they get out of this situation. So that's how the flashbacks end. So when we get into the present day, the episode picks off directly from where it ended last week, and that is with Thea bloody on the floor. And it actually shows her trying to crawl to get a phone. I'm actually surprised that she even has the strength to crawl to a phone, but she's at her last moment. She'll try to do anything. So that's when Oliver finds her. He rushes her to the hospital, only to have Thea flatline a few times before she can be stabilized as best she could. And he's actually told that he needs to think of other options because it doesn't look too good for Thea even if she wakes up. So Oliver has to deal with that news. And then when Malcolm joins, he kind of breaks down. It's definitely the most emotion we've seen from him this season in regards to Thea, and there's definitely no question on the fact that he does care for Thea. He does care for his daughter despite everything he's put her through. He does care for her, so there's no questioning that. So then eventually Felicity and Diggle join Oliver at the hospital. They find out the news about Thea, and Oliver has come to realize that Ra's al Ghul has watched. So after seeing a smoke signal within the city, he goes and meets Maseo, who tells him that Thea could be saved through Ra's al Ghul only if Oliver takes the role of being leader of the League of Assassins. So as he packs, he argues with Felicity, Diggle, and Malcolm about what to do. Malcolm doesn't want Thea to go in the Lazarus Pit, especially after he's explained to the group that the Lazarus Pit is what has kept Ra's al Ghul alive for all these years. I think he even said that Ra's was at least 100 years old, which is impressive. And while the waters have these healing properties, Malcolm doesn't want to subject Thea to it because the waters in the pit are said to change a person to their very soul. But Oliver's not listening to this. He wants Thea back no matter what, despite what Malcolm warns him. So instead of arguing further about whether Oliver's going to go to Nanda Parbat or not, Felicity tells him that she's going with him. She's not going to let him leave her behind this time, which I'm grateful for. So then we have a quick cutscene to Felicity going to Ray to get his jet, since Oliver doesn't have his anymore. But in that scene, that is when I believe he broke up with her. Because he brings up comments like, you still have feelings for him being Oliver. And then Ray brings out the line, you don't love me because you're in love with him. Again, Oliver. And Felicity apologizes. And then before she leaves, he tells her, and I quote, I hope there's something awful stops being awful. And when she greeted him, she said that something awful had happened, so that's where that's from. But I am going to assume that this was their breakup, and as an Olicity fan, I am okay with this. Completely okay with this. So I'll just leave it at that. So they get ready to go to Nanda Parbat, and Star Labs is even brought up. Malcolm's even willing to go to Star Labs instead of going to take the Lazarus Pit, but Oliver's not having it. Oliver even says, get on the plane, Malcolm. And he, like, the way he said it is like, don't argue with me. I thought that was kind of cool. It was like, you're ordering the Dark Archer around. It's pretty intense. So then on the airplane, we actually get an Olicity moment where Oliver tells Felicity that he actually came back to Starling City before he was originally found on the island. And then he talks about how he killed Thea's drug dealer after he saw her dealing with drugs. And he said, and I quote, I also did it because I thought I was protecting her. And then he says later, all I ever wanted to do was protect her. And it's so sad to see Oliver dealing with his failure as a big brother to Thea. But before he even brought up Thea, I thought that moment he was going to confess to Felicity that he had seen her before during that return trip. So I was slightly disappointed that brief interaction in their past wasn't brought up. I would would have loved to see how Felicity reacted to that. So then once they get to Nanda Parbat, Oliver's carrying Thea, and they are welcomed by all the assassins in the League. And there are a lot of them. It's both intimidating, scary, and impressive. And then Roz comes up and welcomes Oliver home, calling him Asahim. And as Oliver is heading to the temple, I guess you can say, all the assassins bow down. So it seems like a very big monumental greeting for them, which I did find impressive despite the circumstance. So then we got that Thea is being taken to be prepared for the ritual to present her to the Lazarus pit, which has Oliver being hesitant, but Maceo takes her and says, "I'll treat her as my own family," which kind of placates Oliver for the time being. And during the preparation, we get a scene between Maceo and Diggle, and in this scene, we actually learn that Maceo's son, Akio, is dead. And while I suspected it for a long time, given the fact that there is a present-day rift between Maceo and Tatsu, and that Maceo had said before that he had went to the League when he was lost or he felt like he was grieving. So I had assumed that Akio was dead, but to actually hear it being confirmed is very sad. But Diggle does play the card of asking Maceo, what would your son think of you now if he knew what you were doing, in regards to having Oliver, a guy he claims is his friend, to be put in this situation. So that was a very interesting exchange between the two. So the ritual begins, and Oliver, Diggle, Malcolm, and Maceo are the ones that are meant to be lowering Thea into the Lazarus pit, while I'm guessing the High Priestess gives the speech. And it doesn't take long after she is fully submerged in the water for the ropes to slip from the grip, and then suddenly Thea emerges from the water and she tackles Oliver and she hisses. And when she started hissing, I basically thought she was fully running on animal instinct, nothing else, or she had no soul like Sam Winchester from Supernatural. But when she hissed at Oliver, there was definitely something wrong. So it takes a few assassins to take Thea off of Oliver, to restrain her long enough for them to inject her with something that knocks her out. And so in that brief moment, Roz reminds Oliver that since he fulfilled his part of the arrangement, it's now Oliver's turn to do the same. So Thea is taken to her temporary room, where she wakes up, and to Oliver's shock, despite the warning, her memory is a little wonky. She doesn't remember that Oliver has returned to Starling City. She still believes that Moira is alive, and she recognizes Malcolm as her dad. So I'm kind of confused as to where in her memory it went wrong, because Moira died after Oliver returned to Starling City, yet Moira died before Thea accepted the idea that Malcolm was her father. So I'm kind like, it would make sense if she didn't remember the last 2 years of her life or something like that, but to have bits and pieces of it missing, it doesn't make sense. But Oliver isn't worried because he's told that it's just a temporary side effect, that it will just pass. But with that, Oliver wants everybody to go back to Starling City with her to take care of her, and Felicity is just not having it. She says that this is wrong, and she storms out. What surprises me, though, is that Felicity confronts Ra's al Ghul and Maceo. She fully calls him out, saying that what he's doing to Oliver, what he's putting him through, is not right. It shouldn't happen. And she's basically a woman on a mission. She is on fire. And I did love the quote that Ra said. He didn't get mad at her. which was shocking. But he calmly said, and I quote, "I can see now why Oliver loves you." And he lets her basically yell at him. She says that she won't leave Oliver here. She won't let Roz take him. She even says, and I quote, "We will go to war to get Oliver back." And then Oliver brings up his own little history with his own wife and children, and how he had the love of his life and how he thought he had everything with her, until one night a man came to him and gave him an offer: either come with him quietly without any goodbyes, or his family would be tortured basically. So Roz chose to leave his family to keep them safe, and he says that it has been agony for him. Yet Felicity says, "It sounds like you gave up too easily." And I gotta say, that girl had some cojones to bring that up. But Roz doesn't even let that faze her. He actually gives Felicity advice to actually use her time now with him to tell Oliver how she feels, to truly confess what she's been hiding or been repressing. He even says, and I quote, "You need to tell Oliver goodbye. Tell him how much you love him. Tell him whatever it is that your heart needs to express. Do it now before he's lost to you forever." So he leaves her, and Felicity goes to see Oliver. And Oliver recalls how there once was a time where he never thought he'd see Thea again, and he references when he was shipwrecked from the Gambit. But then Felicity assures him that he did see Thea again, and he will see Thea again. But Oliver comments on how this time it feels different. And Oliver brings up the fact that he doesn't know what he can be sure of. It was a long quote, but it led me to right here, to this moment. He wasn't sure why he did all the things he did that led him to where he is, I believe is what the quote is. I'd have to go back and look, but basically he said that he doesn't know what everything he did was meant for him to lead him to. But Felicity says that she knows. And there's quite a great few quotes in here. One quote was, "I know leaving you here is going to destroy me." And then another quote is, "You opened up my heart in a way I didn't know was possible. I love you." And Felicity, so open, she finally says it to him after he's been saying it to her repeatedly throughout the season, during their goodbyes. And Oliver recognizes that, he senses it, and he kisses her. And that kiss leads to them having sex for the first time. And it's been a long wait for us Felicity fans, but it was definitely worth the wait to let them have this time together, to have them show each other how much they mean to each other. And even afterwards, Felicity's like, "So that happened." And then Oliver replies, "I'm glad it did." And she agrees with him. They kiss again, and Felicity pours themselves a drink, wants to make a toast. And when she does, and once Oliver starts drinking it, which this part is what surprised me, is the fact that she immediately starts to apologize. And it doesn't take long for Oliver to start to feel woozy, and he collapses because Felicity had drugged his drink. And she even says, and I quote, "I can't lose you, I won't." That blew my mind. I mean, I completely forgot about the synopsis, little teaser about what Felicity may or may not do, but her drugging Oliver when they're at Nanda Parbat was not in my head. That surprised me. So she starts freaking out when she actually tells Diggle and Malcolm what she did, how she managed to take the drug that he used on Thea to give to Oliver. And she says, I quote, "I cannot leave him. Help me get him out of here." So while Diggle and Malcolm think it's suicidal and they're all going to die because of her need to sneak Oliver out, Felicity tells Malcolm that he lived in Nanda Parbat while he was under Ra's al Ghul's control, so he knows the layout of the place. So Malcolm reveals that they can escape through the catacombs, and Felicity immediately pushes for action. She immediately tells everyone to get into place to get out of there. And I love that Malcolm didn't argue against her. It's like she was taking charge, and I love that about her. So while they're trying to get free to the catacombs, they come across a few assassins along the way. Malcolm is trying to fight them off while Diggle is carrying Oliver, while Felicity is tending to Thea. But along the way, they get help from Maceo, and he actually tells them how far they need to go to get to where they need to be. But once they get into the catacombs, they are surrounded by more assassins. And even Malcolm says, and I quote, "Believe me, we do not want to be taken alive." But for some reason, Thea collapsed. She can't go any further. I don't understand why. But then during that collapse, which has more assassins surrounding them and closing them in, Oliver comes to, and he announces his title, and he pulls the full leader card saying, "You will obey, put your weapons down now." And the assassins listen. It's like, whoa. And he dismisses them, and then he tells his team, essentially his family, that he's grateful for them trying to take him away, and he loves them more for it, but he knows this all only ends one way, and that's with him becoming the new leader of the League of Assassins. So with that comes Oliver saying his separate goodbyes to Thea, Diggle, and Felicity, and I love it. When Oliver hugs Thea goodbye, who still doesn't understand why Oliver's staying behind, Oliver says, and I quote, "I love you, Thea. Don't ever forget that." When it comes to Diggle, before he hugs Oliver, Oliver tells Diggle, and I quote, "You're the best man I've ever known. Whatever happens, you're my brother." And that's just monumental right there. Love it. And then comes the Felicity goodbye, and I'll just say it afterwards, but Oliver brings up the fact that Felicity once told him that she knows that Oliver can't give her a happy life, a normal life, while he's still being the Arrow. But he always told her he didn't want her to give up having a normal life. So he wants Felicity to move on from him. And that is so sad as an Olicity fan. And I quote, "Don't give up on that. The only way I'm going to survive this is by knowing that you're out there living your life happy." And while Felicity doesn't want to say goodbye, they kiss again and she walks away. And I couldn't help but feeling that we get this taste of Olicity with them sleeping together and finally admitting that they love one another, only to have it all ripped away from us with this goodbye when he tells her to move on with her life, to forget about him. And that is just so frustrating. In one episode, we get it all, only to have it being ripped away from us. I just don't get it. But, well, and this is a commercial break here, but during this commercial break, I couldn't help but wonder why does Oliver have to stand in a Parbat? Can't he just take the reins as the League of Assassins, like Ra's al Ghul wants, but then kill him immediately afterwards, and then have Oliver return home to Starling City? Because once Ra's al Ghul is dead, the assassins follow Oliver's lead, basically, and if they tell him not to follow him or to keep his family off the grid, then they would do that. It's only Ra's al Ghul himself and whoever follows him that's keeping Oliver away from his family. So I just don't get how Oliver can't just kill Ra's once he is titled the heir or the leader or something. I just don't know why they can't just do that. Anyways, next scene when we're in Starling City is when Thea wakes up. Her memory seems to be right on track because of the fact she despises Malcolm again. But Malcolm actually tells her what Oliver had to sacrifice in order to save her. And she is heartbroken by it. She can't believe it. And Malcolm is telling her that while he's free from the League of Assassins, because Oliver is taking this deal, he wants to, and he can go anywhere in the world, yet Malcolm wants to stay with Thea. He wants to help Thea get through this. He even says, and I quote, "Let me take care of you." I have no idea if she will or not. it's up in the air. But then we see, next scene we see is Felicity going to Laurel, and she's the one that actually tells her that Oliver has joined the League of Assassins, and she breaks down in Laurel's arms, and that is just so sad. It's just, I can't take it. So the final scene happens at Nanda Parbat, and Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, confronts Oliver about the fact that his assassins were killed during his group's attempt to escape, and he wants blood for that. But Oliver says he doesn't want his friends to be targeted because of the fact that he stayed behind. He's fulfilling his part of the deal. And in that scene, Maceo actually confesses to being the one to help Oliver's friends try to escape. And he says, in a quote, "For my betrayal, I offer you my life." And he gives Ra's al Ghul his sword. And yet, instead of killing Maceo for his betrayal, Ra's al Ghul claims that it was Maceo who betrayed him. Yet it was Sarab, his League identity, that showed his loyalty by stepping up to Ra's and telling the truth. And because of that dual identity that Maceo is fighting, that's when Ra's tells Oliver that as the heir to the demon, Oliver Queen cannot exist anymore. He even says, in a quote, "Oliver Queen must be extinguished from memory." And I really don't want to think about how they're going to possibly do that. But shortly after that, there's another ritual for Oliver to undergo, and that is the branding that makes him the heir. And it's the arrowhead insignia that we've been seeing on the Arrow title card this season. And it gets branded on his back. I believe it's his mid-right on his back, I think. It's not directly in the middle of his back, but it's slanted to his right side. So with the branding comes Oliver suiting up in his new League of Assassins attire, as Ra's al Ghul announced him to the assassins. And he says, and I quote, "Oliver Queen is dead. Eventually he'll be reborn as a new Ra's al Ghul. For now, the arrow shall remain Sahim, heir to the demon." And that is how the episode ends, with Oliver in full-on League outfit, uniform, whatever, with a necklace of a bloody arrowhead on it. And I can't remember if that arrowhead is actually one that Oliver brought with him back from Lian Yu, but it's interesting. So with that being said, overall thoughts for the episode, my high points would definitely be all the Felicity scenes, because for so long Oliver and Felicity have been on this roller coaster ride this season alone for their relationship. While this whole season we know how Oliver feels for Felicity. He said "I love you" to her quite a few times through the season. With Felicity, we always knew, but we never had her actually say it. So to actually have her say it this episode was fantastic. It was great to finally have them not hold anything back with one another. They can actually show each other what they feel for one another, and it was great to see they have more than one or two kisses in their corner. So that was great. And aside from Felicity, even the low parts that were their goodbye, as that basically rips my heart apart, the goodbyes Oliver gives to Thea, Diggle, and Felicity were very sweet, very meaningful, touched my heart. It's just, he could not send anything better. Well, he could for Felicity. He could have said, couldn't he have asked her to stay with him? Is that an option at all? Or did he truly have to let go of everything that connected him to Oliver Queen? I don't know. But those are my highlights. And in regards to Oliver wearing the League I have mixed feelings about it, because on one hand, I don't want Oliver to be separated from his team, from his family, and basically be isolated on Nanda Parbat. But on the other hand, I want to see what he does with this leadership role, what he does with the League of Assassins at his fingertips. I want to see what he can do with all that manpower. Can he make the city a better place? Can he make the world a better place? Or is he just going to succumb to old habits that he had while he was on the island? Or even in season 1 when he was killing everybody instead of capturing them. It'd be great to see how Oliver or Al-Sahim takes all these changes and adjusts to this new world, essentially, that he's being pushed into. So that's it for my overall thoughts of the episode. So let's get on to predictions, and I just want to quickly get into predictions for the next episode, episode 21, titled As-Sahim, and the release synopsis for that is the League of Assassins sets their sights on Nisa, and it reads as Oliver goes through a rigorous transformation. The League of Assassins set their sights on Nisa, who is back in Starling City training Laurel. When Nisa realizes they are coming, she arms up to face them alone, but Laurel asks Felicity and Diggle to help protect her new friend. So based on that little blurb, and based on the promo that I briefly got to see, there is a good chance that Oliver is sent to take out Nisa. And he even has the buzz cut haircut. He seems a bit more rigid, more deadly, I guess, in a sense. Definitely not friendly. And I'm kind of worried about what they mean by transformation, because it can't just be the haircut they mean. But it seems that while Oliver or Al-Sahim is going to be focused on eliminating Nisa, which I don't see how Ra's al Ghul can do since she's his own daughter. But while he is focused on that, it seems like Team Arrow is going to try to bring Oliver back from Al-Sahim. They're going to try to find a way to snap Oliver back to himself, and it'll be very interesting to see how they do it. Because it must have taken a lot of stuff to take Oliver out and put Al-Sahim in. So I would imagine that in order to do the reverse, they'd have to put just as much effort, or they'd have to do a hell of a lot more. But I don't know, it'll be great to see. I can't wait. But overall predictions for the remaining episodes of the season, which will include episode 21, 22, and 23. I have absolutely no clue where this season goes, but I am going to assume that Oliver remains in his League attire, because Starling City believes that the Arrow is dead with the fake death of Roy Harper. So it's safe to assume that, or I'm going to assume, that Oliver's going to stay with the League until the finale at least. And in regards to Ra's al Ghul, if Oliver's part of the League until then I'm going to predict that maybe Ra's al Ghul dies maybe in the finale, therefore forcing Oliver to take the complete leadership role of the League of Assassins. But who knows? I don't really see who else could be a bigger villain, because Ra's al Ghul has been the villain this whole time, yet at this moment it seems like he's won. So the only way I could see Oliver winning is if Ra's al Ghul were to die, and if that were the case, then I think that would happen in the finale. But as a side problem, I think Thea and whatever happened to her in the Lazarus Pit, the whole changing her in the soul thing, I think that's gonna creep up between the final episodes. But I have no clue how they're gonna fix it, how they would even attempt to fix it. But that'll be interesting to see. But I will be interested to know, because I saw in the mashed up Flash promo that Oliver does make an appearance in Central City with his League of Assassins uniform. So I'm wondering if we are going to see Barry at all in Arrow, whether it's Starling City or Nanda Parbat. I wonder if we'd get a crossover that way, or if we're just going to see Oliver in Central City, and if that's the case, I wonder what brings him there. So with that being said, I am going to call that an end to this recap. And I'm looking by the time, I think it's definitely a lot shorter than video 1 and video 2. So I think I might stick with this outline for now. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What you think I can improve, what you think I should touch upon with these segments. Tell me what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like about the episode, what ships you're going for. I made it pretty clear that I'm on the Olicity ship, so if you're a fellow Olicity fan, I want to hear from you. If you're not, I still want to hear from you. See who you ship in this crazy Arrow world, and let me know what you think. And also, I have a question. Just want to put it out there, but what do you guys think of, instead of having a recap episode, just have a highlights type of video sort of thing? No clue. I might try it out for next week's episode, but just let me know in the comments below, and we'll see what I can do. I'm still learning as I'm doing these. It's a process, I guess you could say. The more time I make these, the more I get a sense of what to do or what not to do. So it'd be great if you guys can leave a comment to help me out. But either way, love to hear what a fellow Arrow fan has to say. But I'm going to stop rambling now. So like, subscribe, comment. Either way, thanks for watching. This is Mel signing off, and you'll hear from me again next week for episode 321. Catch you guys next time. Bye.